Okay. Okay, friends, I'm going to get started. I'd like to start on time here. So thank you for joining us today. We have about 14 people signed up, so we'll just see who joins us and we'll get started. So let me pray and we'll begin. Father, thank you for this time together. And thank you, Lord, for these huddles that we can talk and discuss some of the questions that we have and meet new people who are also on this EHD journey. We thank you, Lord, for leading us, and we pray for your continued guidance and all that we're doing, Lord, to be witnesses of your love, your kingdom here
Mm,
on earth. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, friends, thanks for joining us. A couple of you are joining us for the first time. Others have been with us, and we have a real mix who have signed up. Um, I've been doing these monthly huddles for a little over a year. We try to meet every month. We do skip a couple months, but just trying to connect people and hear different stories, different places that people are. And I find that connection, that kind of connection is just so good, so important as we're trying to live out these principles, right? We're trying to learn them, live it out for ourselves, and then also for the churches that we're part of or churches that we lead. So every month there's a different topic that I'd like to discuss. And then what we do is what we call case studies and just present to you a different church. So and how they have done different things. And today we will be having Deb Williams from Pennsylvania. And so introduce Deb in a little while. So a couple of quick updates on EHD, some things you may or may not know about. Um, you probably all know the webinars. So I don't know if you're able to join them or not, but they're really good. They're really helpful. Um, they're usually, I think, every month. And the next one will be a three-part series that Pete and Drew will do. As I think most of you know, Drew now is the president of EHD and leading the day-to-day of EHD. And Pete's a support. Pete still continues to produce content, but um, they will together be doing a webinar on emotionally healthy evangelism, which we actually covered in our huddle a couple months ago. But they'll be doing a three-part series on emotionally healthy evangelism, which I think is a great topic of coming alongside and in an emotionally healthy way, making connections with people to spread the gospel. So that's coming up February 10th, I believe. Also, Pete just submitted, I believe, his final draft for his new book, which he hopes to be out by September, called Emotionally Healthy Success. So he's been working on that for about 3 years. We've met with him and Jerry a couple of times, and it was a real work. He put a lot of work into it, and he said he thinks it's his best. He probably thinks that about everyone he does, but he does think this is the best and certainly put a lot of work into it. So that's just a couple of updates for you on that end. What I want to talk about today is self-awareness. Self-awareness as a key or as a starting point for emotionally healthy discipleship. I have a coaching program that I run called Beacon Training and Life Coaching. I coach pastors and leaders and different people who are just interested in bringing the EHD principles deeper into their lives. And one of my components, I have a four-part components. I call it my matrix. The first one is self-awareness because I think self-awareness is the key to growth. Uh, and if you're not self-aware, how in the world are you ever going to be able to change? And so, you know what the core of our conviction and emotionally healthy is you cannot be spiritually mature while remaining emotionally immature, right? I mean, we learned that from day one with reading the emotionally healthy spirituality book. When I first read that title, I was kind of shocked. because prior to that, before I came across the book, someone in my congregation, I had pastored a church for 27 years. Someone in my congregation had asked me that very question. They said, Deanna Brown, she said, can I be spiritually mature, but have, you know, my struggles and my deficits emotionally? And I said, yeah, they're two different things. Your spiritual life is with the Lord, and your emotional life is your psyche. And then I read that title, and I was like, what does that mean? And I read the book, and I think I realized, like, no, they're so joined together. And I recognized that in my own life, I just was not aware. I was just not self-aware. I was so not self-aware that I did not even realize how it impacted my marriage, how it impacted my pastoring. And so it's really the doorway into emotional maturity, both for us and for the people we lead. And it's about paying attention to what's inside of us. You know, Pete will often say that the hardest work of leadership is not necessarily learning new skills. It's learning to tell the truth about what's going on inside of us, to know it and tell the truth about it. Um, so that's why in EHD we don't start with doing, we start with being, right? We don't start with fixing. We start with being. We start with noticing. Start with awareness. Because if we skip awareness, we end up leading from really what we would call an unexamined life, unexamined emotions. We react instead of respond. Um, I can't tell you how many people I have coached in Emotionally Healthy who have not read the book. They're running the course, but they have not even read the book yet. And what they're doing is they're reading as they go along, and they're watching the videos as they go along, and it has not at all been integrated into their life. Um, and so they're just using it. It's like a resource, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's good stuff. We could teach it. When I first came across Emotionally Healthy, my intention was, oh man, this is a good 8 week sermon series. Like I could preach 8 weeks on this. And God was like, no, this is not about that. This is about you. And and really what I did was I took several months to read the book. And like I read the book, I thought it was good. It was like Psychology 101, I knew it. But then that's when God really convicted me. And so my wife and I, we reread the book, but we also did the workbook. And we did it together over a period of like 4 to 6 months. And that's what was life transforming. And recognizing like I can't lead this if I'm not even in any way integrating it into my life. And it really began with self-awareness. So um we talk a lot about the iceberg, right? And that's a something I think that is just so important for us in EHD because it's a key, right? Because people see what's above the surface. They see our behaviors and our words and our reactions, but it's really what's underneath the surface that is driving us. And, it's our emotions and thought patterns and expectations and family of origin wiring and all those things. When I first did the iceberg exercise, it was actually called empty the emotional jug. I don't know if does anybody remember when it was called empty the emotional jug? So it was taken from another resource. And but we were doing empty, but it's the same thing. It's explore the iceberg. It's just been kind of repackaged. And when I first did it, it was I had gone to New Life for a conference. I think it was the second conference Pete had done. And they invited us, or they invited whoever, to go to a marriage weekend a couple of months later, and my wife and I did at the church at New Life in Queens. And we're sitting together and we're doing this exercise. There's a room, a very small room. There's about 100 people, like 50 couples in there, and we're sharing with each other the four parts of the iceberg. And My first one was my wife said, "What? Okay, what are you mad about?" And I was like, "Oh man, I don't know. I'm mad that the Rangers aren't going to make the playoffs." It was like that level. Like the Mets stink this year. And I was like, "Oh wow, I here like it was an instant recognition that I was a pastor and a husband and a father. I have a graduate degree in psychology. My wife is a psychologist, and I couldn't get in touch with my emotions.
Mhm.
And then the next question was, what are you sad about? And I just lost it. I just bawled like a baby, uh, uncontrollable. And I had no idea where those emotions were coming from. My father who had died 15 years earlier, and this and that, and it was like, wow. Like I had no clue that that iceberg was so big, right? And that's why we say like that self-awareness to be able to go underneath and find out what's stirring me or what story am I telling myself and what is, Jerry will often say, what does my reaction tell me about me, right? What does my reaction tell me about me? This morning I was coaching somebody and he was telling me he was having trouble. Him and his wife were butting heads because of his wife's fear and that she never wants to take risks, and he feels inhibited. But as we talk through it, he realized that it was about his fear. He was afraid to hear her burdens and her fears because it reflected on him. For him, it confirmed that he was not being a good husband. He was not listening well. He had fallen short. And so he really didn't want to take the risk to let her tell her truth. And so it was so interesting because what he thought was the problem was real. It was real. There was something really deeply going on beneath the surface. And when he recognized that, like a light bulb came on, he became self-aware. Anybody see the movie Inside Out?
Mhm.
If you have kids or grandkids, you probably have seen it. Um, but at the beginning of the film, Joy, right? She's kind of running a show, and it's all simple. Stay positive and don't be sad. And sadness is viewed as a problem, right? To be avoided. But as the movie goes on, she realizes that sadness isn't the enemy. It's essential. It's a part of joy as well. And that uh, allowing sadness to come in allows for connection and honesty and healing and all those things. So it's really, that's kind of what we're saying in emotionally healthy is being aware that we are built with all these many different emotions that really do drive us. Um, I work with a lot of leaders. I coach pastors and leaders all over North America, and there's a lot of disillusionment and a lot of people who believe that sadness is weak or fear. If you have fear, it is being unfaithful, and that's one of the things I love about EHD. It gives us permission to say, listen, I'm going to name my emotions and it's not going to defeat me. It's not going to overtake me. It's actually a way to come and surrender to them. So, because God is trying to tell me something about me. Um, and I had a leader that I'm coaching again in my business, and and she kept telling me how tired she was. And she took this mini sabbatical. She's a missionary, and she took this mini sabbatical. It was like 4 weeks, something like that. It was like an extended time. And we really, and during that time, we just kind of worked on what was going on underneath the iceberg. And and when she started to work under the iceberg, she realized there was this unacknowledged grief that She had resentment over carrying too much of the ministry. She had this fear of disappointing the people she worked with and disappointing herself. And she had this belief, this misguided belief that rest or even quitting meant failure. And like if we stayed on the surface, we would have just talked about more time off and using your time wisely, rest and all those things. And believe me, all those things are important. Uh, but but really, in emotionally healthy discipleship, there were deeper questions to ask. And like, what would happen, or what am I afraid would happen if I actually did slow down, or if I actually did say no to something, or if I gave boundaries to the people I was working with? What are my fears about that? So, one of the ways that has been helpful to me, and I think um, is a part of what one of the spiritual practices we give is the daily examine. And are you all familiar with the daily examine, the Ignatian practice? Um, it's really not about fixing things, right? It's about reviewing your day with God. Uh, I was just reading last night. Ignatius taught to practice it every day, sometimes twice a day. I didn't realize that. I do it several times a week. I don't do it every day. But it's really reviewing your day with God and where God comes to you. And at its core is noticing God's presence through your emotions, right? And in your behaviors. And um, the two aspects, the consolations and desolations. Where did I feel most alive today? And where did I feel most drained or reactive or disconnected today? Those become two really important pathways to go down. And it moves us along, right? It moves us from that iceberg to understand, like, okay, there may be patterns of over functioning, or there may be limits I'm ignoring, or there may be emotions that trigger me, or you know there are things God is calling me to recognize, and He's trying to speak into my life about it. And so the examine, if you don't practice the examine, I would encourage you to consider doing it as a practice. Consider actually spending time at least a couple times a week, where you do an examine of, all right, where was God in this day of mine? And there, a lot of different models of it, but there's usually like 5 steps to it, of inviting God and welcoming, confessing, and thanksgiving, and reviewing your emotions. And that's why I think this stuff matters for course leaders, for pastors, because people will not go deeper than we go ourselves, right? We're trying to lead people, but we're modeling something for them. And so, listen, I know you can teach the iceberg, you can assign the examine, you can explain all the emotionally healthy skills, but if you're not living it, it's really not going to get into the culture of your church. And really, at the heart of what we're trying to do at EHD is change church culture. And we as leaders, if I had to do my pastoring over again, I would have spent a lot more time developing my leaders and being with my leaders, doing the grief charts and the genograms, and the spiritual formation exercises with my leaders, rather than, trying to grow the church or do those different things. It was a long time before I recognized, where I was coming short with that. So, but when leaders grow in awareness, listen, your church feels safer, your conversations are deeper. You'll find people become less defensive, and spiritual formation becomes embodied. It's not just theory, you're actually living it. And what I love about what we try to do at EHD is create an environment where people don't have to pretend they could be authentic. So I invite you to slow down, use the iceberg not just as a teaching tool, but as a mirror. You know, you can use that as part of your examine. I invite you to practice the daily examine several times a week. And it's not about giving answers, right? It's about being present with people. If I could be present with others in what God is doing in my life, that's where we'll see the greatest change. So we're just going to take a minute here, and I want you to just kind of relax, and I want you to think back over the past week. Just think back. We'll just do a little quick spiritual practice here, and ask ask yourself, when did you feel most alive during this past week? What are one or two things you could say, that's when I felt most alive? And so just sit with that for a minute. 30 seconds will do. Where, when did I feel most alive? And then ask yourself the second question. Where did I feel most depleted? What things or people or voices or thoughts, what made me feel most depleted? Just think about that for a minute. And just spend 30 or so seconds in silence. Amen. Amen. All right. I wasn't planning on doing this, but does anybody, since we're small and the others who signed up didn't show up, we have probably a couple of minutes to do this. Does anybody want to share that? Where did you feel most alive, and where did you feel most depleted? Or one or the other?
Sure, I'll share, Steve.
Sure.
Yeah, I had a bunch. Most alive, believe it or not, Sunday, cleaning up after the snowstorm, snow blowing. My boys and I were
Interesting.
out helping out some neighbors. Took a walk with my wife and our dog through the woods in the snow. A few others
I
that came
love
to
that.
mind, but most depleted.
Wait, stop. Before you go there, why do you think that made you feel most alive?
Yeah, simple reasons. Being with people, beauty, it's natural beauty, the
Yeah,
snowfall,
yeah.
helping people. Um, yeah, pretty simple
Nice,
reasons.
nice.
Yeah, most depleted. There was an assumption I was operating out of this week, um, and it's been resolved.
Okay,
But yeah, email depletes
sure.
the heck out of me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Very
Yeah.
good. Good observations. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Well, I can easily share the most alive. Our daughter, who had her first baby, is our
Mm.
youngest, and we have prayed over her so much. She, basically rejected her faith when she was in junior high. And so here she is having her baby. And she says, "Hey, Mom, this is my playlist of the songs I've been singing to her during the pregnancy." And it was, all these "God will take care of you," all these songs that I
Ah,
Awesome.
sang to her when she was an infant.
Awesome.
that's
And
awesome.
just we had this several amazing conversations.
Yeah,
And
that's
she has
beautiful.
joined a church, and they were bringing the meal train. And I
So
mean,
good.
it's just couldn't have been more wonderful.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I remember you mentioning that a couple of months ago, how you were worried and
Mhm.
Hmm.
Very
So
worried.
there's still some concerns because her husband does have a lot of issues.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But
but we do, all of us
be-
do. So,
beautiful. A lot to celebrate.
mhm.
Anyone else? I had a couple of coaching calls that definitely made me feel alive, and um, it felt like, yeah, that this is good. Like this is good. Just being like Todd said, like just being with people, walking with them through their journey. I, probably something I'll always want to do. So
Mm.
most depleted, getting ready for taxes. Not Texas, taxes. That depletes me, man. Just hate
Amen.
it.
It's no fun.
Anyone else? All right. Well, we are going to move on then. I'll do my best to introduce Deb Williams. So, you know, as some of I'm a coach with Emotionally Healthy Discipleship. I've been a coach for 14 years, I believe. Um, I know Todd from coaching. I remember Todd, one of our first calls. I was in the basement cafe of my church. Um, and for some reason, I remember where I was sitting and talking to you. And that was several years ago, right? That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a number of years ago. Um, so I've been doing this a long time, but the first person I ever coached was Deb Williams. My very first call
Nice.
I made, and again, I remember I was in my backyard and I called you, and I remember Pete asking me to call you because at that point I didn't, even know what to do, who to call. He gave me a list and he wanted me to call and be in touch with you. And Joel was there at the time. Uh, I've known Deb a long time. She's become a friend and um, she's also an inspiration. She'll tell you a little bit about her story, but I'll just tell you, she's been married for 41 years to John, recently retired and enjoying it. Um, Mom of three and a grandmother or a nana to five girls, right?
Hmm.
So that's fantastic. A registered nurse.
Hey, go nurses.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go. And served as the spiritual formation director for her church, Daybreak Church in Pennsylvania for 10 years and has been a spiritual director since 2017. So a lot going on, and I will ask Deb some questions. But Deb, why don't you introduce yourself? I told Deb before I lost the questions I had sent to her. So she did tell me a couple of the ones. So we'll just kind of go on the fly with this and
Oh,
it'll be
okay.
fine. But tell us a little bit more, and that was my little introduction. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then what we're trying to get at today is tell us how you came across EHD in your church.
Hmm.
Any of the struggles and I know some that you faced, and then where you are now. Like just kind of bring it, and I'll throw some questions in there along the way, but just
Hmm.
that's a journey because we're trying to learn from each other. So
Hmm.
if you just kind of share your experience, sometimes it helps people to figure out, what their steps can be. So,
Sure. Thank you, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be with you guys today. I really value when I get to hear these stories as well. I just glean so much.
mm,
Um, I stepped down from my nursing career in 2010 and was kind of just hanging out, waiting for what God was going to show me next. Left bedside nursing, but that whole desire to really just express God's love and care just still stayed very much a part of me. And it was also a time where I was doing a lot of exploration of some going through some loss as a family. And my one of the staff here at Daybreak asked me if I'd come on as a part-time staff and in the role of spiritual formation coordinator. Our pastor, Joel Smith, at that point was the lead pastor and had been immersing himself in some of the emotionally healthy discipleship materials. We had Pete come. We did a whole series. Small groups did it, and then Pete came and did like a 2-day, 3-day course. I don't know if any of you ever experienced him in that setting. But it was one of the times that I really felt as if I had a framework for understanding some of all the stuff that was stirring inside of me, both
Mhm.
spiritually and emotionally, understanding the connection between my emotional health and my spiritual health, which I didn't really have that ability to speak into before this. And so it really fired me up. And my husband was in the same place. So we were very, very, both of us, very passionate about learning more. And just as we began to practice and engage in some of the, not only the material, but some of the practices that it led, like the exam and like daily office,
Yeah.
it just opened up some areas in my life that I just was very unaware of, as well as needing just to meet God in. So,
What was your religious upbringing?
so Daybreak is part of the Christian Missionary Alliance. And I went to a Christian Missionary Alliance church in utero. My mom,
Oh, you
I was
did.
raised, yeah, I
Oh,
was
okay.
raised in a Christian home. And yeah, from that point on,
Okay.
um, John was a pastor for 10 years at a church up in northern Pennsylvania. And then we moved down to this area, which is central Pennsylvania, and settled here.
I don't think I knew that about John.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that. Okay.
But then he went into web development. So go figure. But yeah, so Protestant Christian Missionary Alliance, if you're familiar with the denomination at all.
Mhm.
Um, but that's how I kind of got connected into emotionally healthy discipleship.
And what, so tell us how Joel brought it to the church and how it was
Mm,
part. When I first met Joel, it was at a New Life at a conference. Um, and he was telling me, how he was, Pete was going there and he was bringing it to the church. Tell us what it first looked like and then how things developed.
So I believe the way Joel got introduced to it was by the book. He
Okay.
found the book Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, read the book, or the Emotionally Unhealthy. Do you remember the first one that came out was about, I'm looking at my bookcase. First one that came out was about the church,
Emotionally
emotionally
Healthy
healthy.
Church was the first one.
Exactly. I think he read that one and that he kind of then brought it to the staff. I was not
Okay.
on staff at that point, brought it to the staff, and then through conversations with Pete, and he also was up at Alliance Theological Seminary,
Yeah.
which I think Pete was there at different times. And so they intersected. And then that's how he ended up coming down to, and these were earlier days when Pete was
Yeah.
doing a little bit more smaller settings,
Right.
because Daybreak was smaller at that point.
Right.
And so then developed it through the staff and
So
then
through the staff first
and
before, like,
elders.
see that, and I tell people all the time, if I had to do it again, that's what I would do. I
Yeah.
just brought it to my church, but if I had to do it again, I would bring it to the elders and the leadership.
And he did. He did. So they were all aware of it. And then as a church, we engaged in it.
Nice.
When we engaged in it, we did it through we are very small group driven. And so all the small groups had to do it as part of
Okay.
the fall campaign, which is just a time to focus us. Um,
Hmm.
that had some both positive and negative because not everybody was at a point of wanting to engage in the material in that way. So for some, it was almost like an inoculation rather than an encouragement
Yeah.
to a deeper dive.
There was a time, and it was a short time, but it was probably a year or two that they did what was called a church-wide initiative.
Yes.
And that was probably the time, like we did the
Mhm.
same thing. We told, all right, we're going to stop all our small group. We're stopping everything, and
Hmm.
everyone's going through this.
Yes. Yes.
I don't think that was the best plan, but
I don't know that it was the best either because I really feel strongly people need to be at a point where they're hungry
yeah,
to engage. And if we
yeah,
try to force that or push it, it just doesn't work.
sure.
So I really like to invite rather than challenge people.
Hmm.
So I came on staff in 2015, and one of my first tasks was to get an EHS, only EH spirituality group up and running, a class at that point. We called them classes. And so I did in that January. I came on in the fall. In January, we had our first class, had a
Okay.
great response. And then over the course of the years, we've just run it every spring or every fall. Um, Probably about 2 years into my being on staff here, we added emotionally healthy relationships.
Okay.
And then we would alternate in spring and fall what we offered.
And
Currently,
you
Mhm.
current and you continue that for all these years,
Yep,
spring and
we've continued
fall.
that for all these years. And then probably about 4 years ago, we added emotionally healthy woman.
Okay.
We had tried it once before, but we followed it up in April and May and ending in June, and
Mhm.
that's been a beautiful response from the
Mhm.
ladies. And what we've done is when people engage in the fall, we invite them to make this their group for the year. So
Okay.
if we do emotionally healthy spirituality in the fall, then we'll offer emotionally healthy relationships in the winter, spring semester. So they get pretty much a whole like calendar year of
Hmm.
immersing themselves in the material.
So if they sign up in the fall, I
Mm-hmm.
know there's no have to, but
Yeah,
there's an encouragement. If you sign up in the fall, we'd like you to take the spring course and stay with your group there as well.
exactly. And we try to keep them together as a group.
That's great.
Obviously, we
I
get new
love that.
people. Not, we have seasons where we get a lot of people carrying over, and
Yeah.
then seasons where we don't as much. So, and
Uh,
then we have emotionally healthy women. So we get some women that are coming in the fall and they're engaging the whole way through.
always for, yeah.
Fortunately, we don't have something for the guys, but anyway.
How,
So
how did you manage to raise up new table leaders? And that's always a challenge. You had me speak to your group a couple of years
yes,
ago,
we did. That was
and
great. They really enjoyed that.
yeah,
Um, People we watch for who's hungry, we watch for who's growing, who has that gifting, and invite them to just join us in the ministry. So we
mm,
currently have a team of 10 people. And then we've got every time that we run the group, for the most part, we have two people at a table. So when people come, and we try to keep the groups at less than 10. 10 is really getting out of control. It's almost better at 8.
yeah,
So
yeah,
then we'll have
great.
two leaders as well. They go through the training, the level 1 training and the level 2 training.
See, talk a little bit about that. I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but that
Have you
is.
guys explored the vault at all?
Are you all familiar with the vault?
Yep.
Are
Yeah,
you
so there's
all?
great tools on the Vault. They've grown and really developed the tools as well. But the level 1 training helps kind of prepare someone for some of the basic skills you need as a table leader, how to sit with people, how to listen well, how to ask some good open-ended questions,
Mhm.
how to invite further engagement. Level 2 takes it up a notch, where how do I engage people with like for some of the harder tasks like the genogram, how to
Yeah,
sit with somebody as you walk through the genogram, how to talk with somebody about their grief journey or the wall experience.
yeah.
And they're very helpful. There's videos there as well as a whole booklet. So that's part of the training of our team leaders. We
And
also
that,
have training every year. We'll pick a new topic. So as we're getting ready to start the year, we'll have a training session and a team building time.
Hmm.
okay.
And people commit to being with the ministry for the entire year. So if they're going to do it in fall, and that's a requirement. If you're going to
Oh,
lead,
so if you're going to be a table leader in the fall, you're going to be a table leader in the spring.
exactly. Unless something comes up,
Wow.
but yes, that's the commitment.
Wow. That is excellent.
It
I
is. It's really helped with continuity.
That's really but that's high, like that's what we call,
Mhm.
especially level two, right? Like, we're calling people to higher level. Like even the EHD course, it's a
Mhm.
higher level, right? People are paying money to buy the material, they're committing to 8 weeks, you know. Um, we're pretty strict in terms of how many people times people can miss that type of thing. So
Mhm.
you're really keeping that for your leaders though,
For the
not just your
leaders,
participants.
exactly.
Your leaders are like No, we need you in the spring and in the fall, or fall and
Hmm.
spring.
Hmm.
That's really good, Deb. I didn't know
Yeah,
that. That's
that's really
excellent.
been helpful. And the other thing is, my focus as now we have a department of spiritual formation. So as director, I now have a coach in emotionally healthy discipleship.
Wow.
It's his role to shepherd those leaders
Wow.
and then
So
in
that
turn shepherd their groups.
your church has really embraced this as
Hmm.
part of the culture
Yeah.
of their church.
Yeah. It has become very much. In fact, for our Lent series this year, they're going to do a series on emotionally healthy disciple, being emotionally healthy disciple show. That'll just pick out some of the pieces of it,
Yeah.
give an overview as an invitation. Um, so it's kind of become an integral part of the whole culture
Yeah. Yeah.
within Daybreak,
Yeah.
but that's taken time. I mean, it's been over a process of 12,
Yeah.
13 years.
Real quick, only don't spend much time on it, but real quick,
Mhm.
um, when Joel left, there was uh, obviously there's going to be changes, right? When the pastor leaves and things get shaken up, it's not ever easy, no matter how good or how bad a departure is. Um, how did you manage, just strictly EHD speaking, how did you all manage navigating the change to a new pastor and the waters that you guys had to sail?
Daybreak's a little unusual. We have a pastor lead team. So we have two lead pastors. And we had a senior pastor, and then we had pastors under him. When our pastor left, unfortunately, one of the things that had happened prior to him leaving was a little bit of I'm going to use a term. He almost weaponized some of the emotionally healthy discipleship pieces. So he would work through like a genogram with somebody, but then it would be used almost against them in
Mm,
later meetings for discipleship. So
mm,
there was a definite leeriness of
yeah,
some of the staff. So there was a season of it just kind of still running as a group, but it didn't have the same prominence. Over time, one of our lead pastors is particularly passionate about formation and that whole idea of what that looks like holistically. And
yeah,
as a result, it's become much more prevalent. It's also, we see results. We see people walking away with
yeah,
that increased awareness, that ability to reflect, the ability to be with God and spend time and not just perform. So that's been a key aspect.
yeah.
So,
Thank God, your leadership obviously wanted to continue and or built
yes,
that way, but
they
thank
did.
God for somebody like you who was
Hmm.
there to
Yeah,
carry it because
yeah.
you became a key. All right, we got about just a couple minutes. Um, Deb, tell us how EHD is used in spiritual formation. I'm sorry, in spiritual directing. Tell us what
Mhm.
spiritual direction is, in case nobody knows, and
Okay.
just how you use it.
Okay. Does everybody know what a spiritual director does? Okay. Yes. All right. So my role, I went to training to become a spiritual director. It's really helped my role here because it's enabled me to kind of tie these pieces together. Direction is about helping somebody understand and notice and be aware of God's presence with them in their daily life. That's a
Mhm.
very short piece of it. It involves spiritual practices and to make space for that to happen
Mm,
as aware of other things. So in emotionally healthy discipleship, that those areas like we just talked about awareness today, that's a piece I bring into direction.
mm,
Um, the idea of God's presence with them, the idea of understanding the connections of my past and how that's playing out in the way I view my present.
yeah,
It's also another key piece. So the whole genogram, the looking back to go forward. The wall, I mean, that's huge as well. So when people run into those seasons of their life where they hit the wall and
yeah,
they're confused, their faith is dry, or they're just churning with questions that they don't even know how to find answers for. providing that space for them and then
Nice.
having this is a resource to be able to point them to. Those have all
Mm.
been like key aspects.
Mm.
And you get it gives language, right? It
It
gives language
does.
to
It
people.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll frequently pull out a tool or I'll pull out the day by day and give them, if somebody's grieving, which is a big piece, I'll give them the week of readings on grief from the
Nice.
EHS. Or,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, from the day by day. Sorry, the daily office.
It used to be called the
Yeah,
day by
I
day.
know. I still have my little purple book. So that's how
Well,
old.
I think, well, isn't it still, yeah, it used to be called no, it used to be called daily office, and then now it's day by day.
Now it's day by day. That's true. See,
Right,
I'm even
right.
mixing them up. But yeah,
So for those who don't know, there, and I have it on my shelf out here too.
oh,
When it
yeah.
was originally released, it was just this purple book
Yes, there it is.
with
The
the
purple
rowboat
book.
on the cover.
Yeah, that's the old one.
That's the
That's the
old
old
one, but
one.
it's heavily underlined and marked, so I can't bear to part with it.
Well
Yeah,
loved.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So, well, that's fantastic, Deb.
Yeah,
You've done a great work. Daybreak is blessed to have you.
fun. Hmm. I
So
work with a
thank you.
great team of people. They're just awesome. So that makes it just an added joy. Talk about giving
It,
life or a consolation. Yeah.
and that's a big key is building a good team around you.
Hmm.
I
It
mean,
is.
a lot of people try to do it on their own, and but I love the commitment level. I love the training, the mentoring. You almost have like a farm system, like baseball, right? I see
Mhm.
Joe's a Cardinal fan there,
Mhm.
um, but you have like this. My brother's a Cardinal fan too. I don't know how, but uh, uh, building a system to raise up leaders and carry it on, right? Because we're changing culture and we're trying to keep it moving. So.
Yes.
Um, well, does anybody have any questions for Deb? First of all, thank you, Deb, for sharing. Appreciate
Welcome.
it. Anybody have
Deb,
any questions?
can you explain a little more? You mentioned the like weaponizing of genogram.
Hmm.
I'm just curious about that and
What that
understanding,
look like?
yeah, what that
Uh,
looked like.
it's kind of if I sat down and had a discussion with you about your genogram and what you noticed, patterns, things that have emerged that are, and maybe then even more, what are you noticing in your life today as a result of that? And then later on, I used it against you in
Hmm.
conversation where I would bring it up in a way that wasn't maybe encouraging. It was more almost to blame or to condemn. It was a rocky period in our church. I don't mean to
Yeah,
besmirch our lead pastor. It's just it was
sure.
a
That's helpful
challenging
to,
transition.
yeah, and like to like kind of push people toward a certain conclusion or commitment or
Yeah, or I think
manipulate a decision.
cast blame too as
Okay.
well. So it
Right.
wasn't a safe environment to
Yeah,
explore what was going on, either
sure.
in your past or in your present life.
Yeah. Was it
Mm.
something
So
that was like subtle and people didn't realize it was happening until afterwards, or was it very clear and direct?
it's
A little bit of both.
a little bit of both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things
We've
are
had some great
cautious
growth
of
as
and
a
learn with.
result of it. It's
Hmm.
just taken some healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Great question, Tom.
Hmm.
Anyone else? Question for Deb. I'm always intrigued about the development of table leaders.
Mm.
Hmm.
It's such a key.
Hmm. It is. You're really investing in the lives of your volunteers, your ministry volunteers. It just takes it to a
You're
whole new level.
discipling them, Deb. You're
Exactly.
discipling them.
Exactly.
And that, Jesus disciple, right? I mean, his focus was on the 12,
Hmm.
right? It wasn't
Right.
that's where his focus was. And so, yeah, it's a real act of discipleship.
Hmm. I think the other thing is we're really focused on helping people understand that your table leaders are still in process. So this
Hmm.
is how God's been leading them, but it's not like they've arrived. They're still
Sure,
very much working on some of these areas.
sure.
So before, like we're going to go into emotionally healthy spirituality here next Monday. We start a new group and the each week one of the leaders will share where that particular subject for the week has resonated with them.
Mm.
They'll share that to the whole group.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, just like in a 3 to 5 minute
Yeah,
story.
Yeah.
that you know how
Absolutely.
impactful stories are
Yeah.
to people. So it's also a way of helping them understand, oh, my leader hasn't arrived, but this
Yeah.
is how God's been working.
Yeah.
So as a source of encouragement.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Thanks for listening.
Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing. Well, with your permission, we'll be sending this out to those who could not join, but did sign up for
Okay.
it. All right, Kathy, we'll do a quick Q&A. Kathy had a question. Do you want to read and ask it, or do you want me to do it?
I didn't write it. Wait, yes, I did. I have it in an email I sent to you. Basically, we haven't been practicing, and I keep thinking we need to practice more. We need to get this to be part of our communication all the time.
When you say we, who do you mean
I'm
we?
talking about Chris Scruggs, my husband. That's
Okay.
part of our life here.
Okay.
Okay, I have to look at sent. Sent, I said to Stephen. Okay. Please review. This is just so that I can start practicing more, Deb.
Sure.
Please review the contrasting goals of incarnational listening, climbing the ladder of integrity, and clarifying assumptions. For example, if I want to clarify an assumption, is it my assumption, or is it that I'm asking if you have the assumption?
So clarifying assumption would be your assumption.
My assumption, even if it is, I'm assuming that you think.
So so it kind of falls in line, right? So your mind, that's like mind reading, right? So
I
you know, do I have permission to read your mind? I think that you think, is that correct?
Okay.
You're
So
checking it out.
you're
Just
checking it out.
checking it
Yes.
out.
Yes.
And
But
for just incarnational listening, that's basically we don't do we in incarnational listening arrive at some agreement? Or is
No.
that the ladder of integrity?
And that's the ladder of integrity is for you to get clear on your own values.
Right.
Own
Right.
values.
That's for you to kind of puzzle through a situation when you're kind of confused as to why you're feeling as strongly as you are, or maybe even shut down. And so it's to help you kind of understand what's going on inside of you.
And I already know that I grew up in a we don't talk about we just don't discuss any kind of conflict or anything, and I'm a total confrontation avoider.
Okay.
And so
the conflict ones in particular.
I'm trying to learn how to be more authentic and how to work through these.
Yeah. Well, and the ladder is very helpful for that.
Okay. So
yeah,
I'll practice. I'll try
with,
to.
so with the latter, Kathy, you know, one of the goals is that you don't blame, right? You take responsibility for your feelings.
Yes.
And number 7 on the ladder is value. You know, I value. So you really, what you're trying to get at is, what is your value and what do you feel is being violated? Now, you may not even ever have a conversation with a person about it, but you're like Deb said, you're just trying to get clarity on your end, so you own it, right? You can own it. You may talk to the person. You're not going to go up the whole ladder with them.
Okay.
You may discuss with them, but the idea is clarity. And incarnational listening is so that you can put is empathy, right? Is you can put yourself in the other person's shoes and you can feel what they feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what's the saying we use? You know, so that you know you give them the gift of being heard, right? Like to be heard is so close to being loved that is nearly indistinguishable.
So I can initiate an incarnational. For example, we had a situation when our daughter that recently had the baby was in labor, and her
That would
sister.
not be a good time to have a conversation.
There was a group text, and her sister put something that really was so basically offensive that it stalled her labor. Her husband told me, said, I think we probably could have gone through and had that baby that night but it's just stalled because it was so upsetting. And then they ended up taking, she was in a birthing center. They took her to the hospital to deliver and everything went fine. But it was very upsetting. And so I feel she has asked me to talk to her sister.
So
Okay.
you probably wouldn't use incarnational
Incarnational
listening
listening.
in that instance. The incarnational is listening so that you feel like you've been heard,
Okay.
right? So the person has the skill to be able to listen, to enter into your world. Or you enter, like if Chris wants to talk, you might say, Chris, I know this is really bothering you. Would you like to do incarnational listening? I'll listen to you as you share. Um, but that situation, no, that wouldn't be the skill you would use.
Did that clarify that for you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to see this other daughter next week, and I'm hoping that I can have a conversation. She doesn't know anything about EHD, but to let her understand that her sister would appreciate an apology.
So you might want, like Deb said, you might want to go up the ladder of integrity
For yourself
and
before
write it out. Just write it
Write it
out or type it out, and if I'm happy if you want to type out a first draft and send it to me, I could give you my feedback.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I
Okay,
appreciate Deb. Thank you.
that's great. Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions? Anything that anybody's holding that you just need some clarification on? Not in life, like, or
I could think of a couple things.
EHD related.
How much time you got?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Well, it's so good to see you all. Todd, it's been a long time. Really good to see you. We'll have to set up a time to catch up.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
That'd be nice. You've had a lot of changes happen in the last several years, so
It's been a interesting couple of years. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's the beauty of working in the EHD for me is the connections, right? Like I've been connected with all of you except for Joe. Joe, I think this is the first time we're meeting. So it's great. Real quick, are you running the courses right now, or are you starting? Where are you at with the EHD courses?
Kind of like the exploring side of it. I've read a couple of the different books and just kind of looking for what's next. So
Awesome.
Okay. Okay. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Maybe talk through and answer any questions you might have. So feel free to email me, let me know, times or dates that are good for you,
sure,
and we can work out something, okay?
sure.
All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for joining today. Blessings on you, and hopefully we'll see you next month.
Thank
All right.
you.
Peace.
God bless. Stay
Bye.
warm.